On April 17, we have the Libra Full Moon. And Libra moons are always about peace and forgiveness and finding the right balance. And this one really shows up where there's been injustice, where your back has been pressed against the wall. A few days before the full moon, we've got the absolutely beautiful Neptune and Jupiter conjunction in Pisces. Now, this conjunction doesn't happen very often, and it's a combination of two of the loveliest, dreamiest, most inspiring and creative planets that we have. Jupiter crosses over Neptune once every 12 years. But when they're both together in Pisces, and they both love Pisces, it's a big deal. Neptune is dreamy and fantastical, and Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So this is a time when dreams get big, where magic happens, where there's literally an expansion of consciousness. What that means for you personally, especially if you're born in that later part of Pisces, around the middle of March, this is the time to be really trusting your intuition, to be listening to your dreams, to be starting new studies, learning about the mysteries of life. And also, because it's very compassionate, it's a time of generosity, of really giving of your heart. These two are moving around each other until May the 10th. So this next month, there's a lot of love to share, a lot of good vibes. If you're working on creative projects, or anything that connects people through a kind of a spiritual mean, through acts of service, through charity, through volunteering, meditation, and your spooky stuff too, you might be coming up with brilliant ideas. It gets a magical release, connecting you to other people, other sources, other levels. It's really beautiful. However, we have a T-square with Pluto. And this sets up a really tough, rockin' hard place. And for that, my concern is around Russia and Ukraine, and a worry that chemical weapons might be used. Or this might be the time that intervention happens and it's stopped. The feature of this Libran moon is this T-square with Pluto. Moon in Libra wants to have justice and balance. Sun opposite in Aries wants to have independence and stand up for itself. But they're both putting pressure on Pluto, who is the god of death and transformation. Pluto is a dwarf planet that rules the underworld. So anything that's been suppressed or oppressed, anything that's coming from a place of control rather than love, anything that creates that point of no return, that's what Pluto represents in this moon phase. So we've got this balance of independence, fairness and justice meeting a dead end. No turning back. And we've got some extra flavour on both the moon and the sun. The moon is joined with Haumea. She's a dwarf planet like Pluto. She's a Hawaiian goddess, a really primordial earth and fire goddess who embodies the new landscapes that form from molten lava, and often depicted with multiple life forms coming from her. So this one really talks of new life, new forms, and possibly new forms that have grown out of an eruptive process. The sun in Aries is joined by the asteroid goddess Pallas and Eris. And this one's punchy. Pallas is the goddess of justice and war. Pallas is very concerned about the strategic methods of war, and including diplomacy. In Australia, we've had inquiries and now court cases around war crimes committed by the Australian SAS soldiers in Afghanistan. And Pallas has been instrumental in uncovering where those rules of war got completely scattered. And she calls it into account. Here with Eris, Eris is the goddess of discord, and she's very outspoken. If she's been slighted or harmed or hurt, she doesn't mind making it public. Eris is an indication of street protest and rebellion. She was very active during the Hong Kong democracy protests of 2 years ago. And she's someone that we would see with Grace Tame giving side-eye to the Prime Minister. If Eris has been condescended to, she doesn't hold back from expressing exactly how she feels about that. So we've got this line here. New creations, harmony and balance. Opposite, asserting independence and being loud, taking to the streets and protesting about it. Pulled into line by Pluto. In many ways, this is like a call to action, to create new forms. And for Libra and Aries especially, you'll be starting something new, something radical, something out of the box, a completely different way of doing it. From the bigger picture, Libran's sense of fairness and justice looks like there's exposure coming through Pluto with really dirty secrets coming out, a real shift in power and quite a volatile response. If you're engaged in negotiations at the moment, there might be a bit of pushback in areas you hadn't thought. Or there might be a really hard consequence for wanting your independence. One thing with Haumea, she is unstoppable. She's volcanic. So the idea that there are new forms coming through can't be diminished. It's already happening. Pluto gets quite a bad rap, but I love Pluto. Pluto gives you intensity, it gives you honesty and authenticity. It makes you real. It helps you face up, turn up, and deal with the really deep nitty-gritty of life. It's not superficial at all. So something in this moon phase is calling us to speak out, even if the consequences are really tough. This Neptune and Jupiter conjunction also adds that kind of layer of bubbles and mist. So if there's a hard truth that's getting buried or secrets that are stuck down in the underworld, we might see them exposed at this time, or they might be pushed further down under layers of lies and deceit until we get the Libra new moon in October later in the year. The other thing that's really tipping the balance with this full moon is Saturn over here in Aquarius, joined by Juno, asteroid goddess, and Mars not too far off. These three have been playing with each other for the last month or so, and they've been bringing up issues of commitment and where rules and regulations can either be relaxed or upheld. When Juno comes in with Saturn, there's a consequence if you don't live up to commitments. Both of these planets ask for a level of maturity, and if you approach them with an immature attitude, these two really kick back. Juno goes nuts and seeks revenge and havoc wherever she goes, and Saturn will come down hard on you, forcing you to learn lessons. And this conjunction is important during this moon phase because it's exactly at the midpoint of the nodal axis. The North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio, and this is what we call a skipped step. The North and South Node are an indicator of overall karmic direction. This one is the North Node is where we expand, where we grow, and the South Node, currently in Scorpio, is where we can let go of things. This is also our comfort place, because the South Node is something we're really used to doing, where the North Node projects us into new territory. And right now, Saturn and Juno are forcing a halt or a reckoning in this direction. Saturn is saying there is a consequence to your next move. And Juno is saying the commitments you made need to have a maturity with them. It looks to me like someone is breaking commitments, causing an uproar, and a new landscape and territories revealing themselves in the midst of that. For Libra, this is really crunchy because Libra doesn't really like conflict. But we've got agreements, hope, hard truth, and sheer rebellion being pushed and pulled from all sides. And our next move has a consequence that will affect our future. If this is you in a tricky position between a rock and a hard place, then Saturn is saying be accountable. Check your detail. Don't go running off the rails. Back yourself up. The bigger picture and the karmic picture is about stepping up, growing up, and being an adult. And if you're wavering between letting go of something or giving it new life, this is the time you might find that your hand is forced and the new life is ready to come forth. These aspects are really hard, But there's a few lifelines that are being thrown. Juno and Saturn are in a positive relationship with the moon. So it lets you know if you can work within restriction, you'll be able to grow these new forms and take advantage of this creativity and unstoppable output that the moon is giving. The other little bubble of helpful news is Venus, tucked in here in, she's actually tucked in here in Pisces, is in positive relationship to Uranus and Mercury. Uranus is the unpredictable, explosive, revolutionary, shocking, electric, lightning bolt planet. And with Mercury next to it, it's echoing some of this rebellion and protest and outspokenness that these other planets are doing. Uranus and Mercury together send forth an illuminating or a shocking conversation, a piece of news or information that drops in, a surprise visit, or it even unearths something going on behind the scenes. With Venus making such a lovely connection to them, we could expect some of that shock to be softened, coming out for the better. Because it's Venus, it might be something about a new love or a secret crush. It could also be about money coming your way or a gift. To me, it has a feeling of a love letter, or through the language of love, with Mercury there, through the way words are used, the way attraction is expressed. With Pluto anchoring in this T-square, it's really got a sense of getting in under your skin. And maybe there's family patterns or ancestral energy involved with this. Venus and Haumea are making sure the best thing comes out of it, even if there is a loss. One thing over this moon phase, you can guarantee Libra's going to have her work cut out finding peace. And the way she might need to find peace is to really speak up, to really highlight injustice. And we know if we can do that in a mature and wise way, Saturn and Juno will be pointing us in the right direction as far as cleaning out what needs to be cleared out and setting up a stability and a dependability and an authenticity for the future. I'm Merryl, and this is my mystery school. Like, follow, share and subscribe. If you'd like to know more, contact me on my website www.merrylkey.com. Blessed be.